Welcome to ResponseABLE Parenting, the podcast that shows you how to parent in alignment to your emotions, needs, and goals versus your programming, bad advice, and let's face it, outdated strategies that just don't work. You'll get in the trenches support on nervous system and emotional regulation, critical mindset shifts, stronger communication strategies, and more. In this podcast, you'll gain transformational tools that take you from reacting to every frustration to responding with clarity, regulation, and finally setting the example you desire for your kids. I'm Becky Jennings, your new parenting coach, and this is the ResponseABLE Parenting Podcast. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. I want to talk about a very rude thing that I'm experiencing, which is perimenopause. No one invited her to this party. No, we don't want you. We're not trying to be rude, but if you could just exit stage left, that would be awesome because you are ruining everything. You're single-handedly ruining everything, and I'm not a fan. I want to talk about how it messes with us and how it messes with cycle breaking and not cycle syncing, cycle breaking, how it messes with our conviction as mothers, how it messes with our minds. Honestly, this shirt fit, if you can see in the YouTube video, this shirt fit about 2 months ago. And I just put it on and it's tight because I started taking creatine because I was told that we lose so much muscle during perimenopause that it's an essential. It's actually more important to take creatine as a woman than it is as a man. And now all of a sudden, my biceps are. I'm not upset about the muscle. I'm just upset that I went and I bought new clothes, and now none of them fit. So I'm going to talk about a couple of these things because it's just annoying, and it can really mess with your head as a woman. Perimenopause is like the worst timed phase of life because it's like as we're going through perimenopause, our kids are going through puberty. And so they're getting sassier as we are experiencing tremendous amount of hormonal fluctuation and brain fog and all the things. And so it's just a very terrible combination. So we all know perimenopause. We don't love her. We hate her. But perimenopause is the 10 years around when menopause is likely going to strike. And then you hit menopause, that is 12 months of having no period, and then you are in postmenopause. So I believe I heard a podcast, and I could be wrong, but I heard a podcast once that was doing a deep dive with a doctor on perimenopause because nobody knows about anything. And so you have to do your research via podcasts about perimenopause because those are the only people talking about it. Anyways, she said every single female is in premenopause from the day she is born, which makes sense because it's before menopause. Perimenopause is 10 years around menopause. You are in menopause for one day, which is the day that you are 12 months free from no period, and then you're in postmenopause. So this whole thing is just ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. But I want to talk about it in terms of parenting and in terms of your self-worth and in terms of how we regulate our nervous system as our hormones are disasters in this moment. And it's hard. The whole thing is one gigantic train wreck going at warp speed, and we're supposed to just figure it out. Anyways, I want to talk about how this is now more of a time than ever to quite literally get your shit together in terms of your nervous system, because we are that little pin that's holding the trap open, or the cheese is sitting right there, and then the mouse goes in and it kills the mouse. We are that pin all day long, all the time. Even when we were in our beloved ovulation phase where we were like, this is great, everything's happy, I can be social and all the things, we're still not good then. Now in perimenopause, I was talking to my friend and she says her PMS is happening in her ovulation cycle now, which is crazy And the unfortunate news is we don't know when our cycle is anymore, because it could be anywhere from 14 days to 28 days to 32 days to 12 days. It's needless to say, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of a 23-day cycle now. That is not awesome. I'm also not a fan of the zero recovery time of bloat and all the hard work that I had done when I discovered that I was in perimenopause. Okay, let me rewind. So I turned 40 2.5 years ago, and I started getting all these crazy symptoms. Now, my mom went through menopause when she, I believe, was like 45, 47, which is a tad early, maybe 47. She doesn't remember, because remember in the 80s and 90s, women didn't ever, they weren't taking care of themselves. They weren't putting themselves first. And so she does not know the year. Anyways, she went through menopause early. So at 40, I started having all these symptoms in my forearms, like my joints and my muscles. I like couldn't bend my elbow. I couldn't grip a steering wheel. It was wild. I was like steering the wheel with like the base of my wrists. I was having crazy cramps in my calves. I thought I had a blood clot. I did not. I had wild restless leg syndrome. I still have restless leg syndrome every single night, and I'm not pregnant. And that is so rude, because that was one of my least favorite parts about being pregnant, was restless leg syndrome. I also have the worst insomnia I've ever experienced. I had such bad night sweats to the point where I would put a towel on. This has subsided a little bit, because, and I'll tell you what I started taking. I'm not pushing any supplements. I'm just going to tell you what I'm taking. I would literally put a hand towel in the front and the back of my shirt, sleep in that. I would wake up, those would be drenched. So I would take those out, and then I would go back to sleep, and then I would soak through the next round of pajamas, and then I would just have to change. Awful. It is awful what we go through. Awful. Anyways, I essentially went to the doctor, and I was like, I'm having these crazy symptoms and I don't know what's happening. On top of that, I had this 1 to 2 month period of time where I gained like 15 pounds, and I was not doing anything different. My food hadn't changed. My workouts hadn't changed. Nothing had changed. So I was like, this is not okay. Something is up. So I went through all these tests. I went to an endocrinologist. I went to a rheumatologist. I went to a couple, I can't even remember at this point, but I went to like 4 different specialists. All of them were like, we have no idea what's happening to you. Somebody thought I had lupus at one point. So for a month, I was walking around thinking I had lupus. Come to find out, it was all perimenopause. I mean, honestly, it's like, connect the dots, doctors, please. It's like, we have to literally do all of our own research, because this is such an understudied thing. I get very frustrated and upset about this, because it is so obvious that the 70 symptoms that I had were on the list of perimenopause, my age, all of the things right there, right? Okay. So anyways, after I realized I don't have lupus, because that is very frustrating to hear a doctor tell you that, only to figure out that you're just going through the hormonal changes of a 40-year-old woman. I started deep diving down the rabbit hole of how to help and support myself. I ended up following this woman. Her name is Meredith Shirk, I believe. Let me look it up so that I don't mess this up. Meredith, she just goes by Meredith on Instagram, but she's the Svelte Life, SVELTE Life, Svelte Life. So I followed her metabolic program because it was designed for people going through menopause. And I was like, she's 40, she gets it. I started following it, and basically it's an anti-inflammatory diet that adds like metabolic boosters in it, like cinnamon and ginger and turmeric and lentils and things like that. I was like, this is easy to follow. I can do this. So I followed it. And over the span of about Well, the first week I lost 6 pounds, which I was like, this is awesome. Finally, something's clicking and making sense. And over the course of like 2 months, I lost about 20 pounds, which I was back down to like my normal weight. And I felt really good about myself. And I was really happy. And the pain, that's where the pain went away. The night sweats started to go away. I also started taking a supplement called Serenol, Serenol, Serenol. That was what my gynecologist at the time, who told me I wasn't in perimenopause. Don't worry, I have a new gynecologist. Um, he had said I wasn't, but I should do intermittent fasting. I was doing intermittent fasting. He was like, you should exercise every day. It's like, I am exercising every day. And he was like, you should, all of the things I was doing. I work out every day. I try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I have subsequently, since I've started this whole process, I've stopped drinking alcohol. Literally cannot figure this out. And it's really annoying. But I got some solid progress going with the Svelte Life Method, with the MetaBoost program and all of that. So I felt really good about that. And then my dad started rapidly declining with Alzheimer's. And there were some studies saying that, and I'm on this text chain with all the cousins of how we can support ourselves to not decline, because all of his brothers and sisters, I think of the 5, there are 2 remaining. Nobody is above 76, 77 years old, and they have all passed away because of Alzheimer's. So we are in a chat trying to support each other to figure out how to get through this, and not follow suit. So creatine has become this really popularized supplement. The more I dive into it, the more I realize how beneficial it is for perimenopause. Like the amount of muscle mass, it's September now. I started taking it in June. I have put on so much muscle. It's wild just by taking the creatine. But again, it's just changing the shape of the bod, which starts to bring up these past storylines, these low self-worth feelings of like linking your value to your body and the whole thing. I'm going to finish talking about that real fast, but I've been told that it can take, up to a couple months for the water retention that you start to experience with creatine to flush out of your body, but don't stop taking it. So I'm like still in the phase of like, don't stop taking it, but like, when's the bloat going to go away? So now I'm also taking what are they called? A pre and probiotic. I wasn't taking that. Apparently that's very, very supportive and helpful. So taking the Serenol, that is helpful. I have a concoction that is from Meredith's program that is like, and I've just taken it to a really insane level. It's like ginger, lemon, turmeric, cinnamon, honey, coconut water. And she does these in these little shots, and I make them into like a tea that I drink in the morning at night. So I'm back onto those, and I'm like starting to notice my body like getting back into it. But like grief and nervous system regulation practice and low self-worth limiting beliefs, those stay in your body. And I want to talk about, so that was a lot of intel about my perimenopausal journey thus far, and I'm going to share more. But here's what I have noticed is the process of going through perimenopause and the toll that it takes on your emotions, the toll that it takes on your body, it can really drive you a little bit nuts. And it can kind of become like your body can once again be the focus of your life again. And I don't know if this is true for other people who are listening or you experience this, but I struggled with disordered eating when I was really, really young. So from 11 to 22, I was anorexic. I tried bulimia once. It was not a fit for me. I was just like, I will control this. And so I was anorexic for 11 years. And then I just kind of morphed that control over into my job. And I've just really just been toying with different ways to really dial in that control. Spoiler alert, control is not real, which I have learned. A big wake up call for me was the death of my son, and how you truly, truly, truly cannot control anything, no matter how strong and white knuckling you are holding on to this stuff. You cannot control it. All you can control is how you show up to these moments, how you treat yourself in these moments. That being said, when you start to notice all these shifts and change and maybe rapid weight gain or hormonal discomfort and all these things, you're raging all the time over the smallest things that you would never rage about. You don't want to touch your spouse. It's all so awful. It can bring up all these old self-worth loops that I would argue to say that we got rid of a lot of them in our 30s, and then they can come rushing back while we are experiencing these changes in our bodies, while perimenopause is rearing her sweet, ugly head. So this is why I have taken and 10x'd my nervous system work, because I have found that the more I focus on what I can control, which is my breath, which is my focus on how I want to show up, which all comes down to creating a sense of felt safety internally. Really looking at a situation and being like, can I control it? Yes or no? No. The answer is generally no. What can I do? How can I show up in the moment to support myself in this moment to feel better? Not to feel elated and joyful, but like to take me from 100 down to 99 so that I don't explode. I've really spent a huge amount of this beginning phase of perimenopause, which is, we're coming up on 3 years now of the 10. I have spent a huge chunk of that identifying the storylines that are cropping up again, specifically around body image and what body image says about me. Am I a good enough person if I look like this? Am I worthy if I look like this, right? I have been really unpacking that because it impacts the way that I show up to my kids. If I'm feeling down on myself, if I'm feeling this low self-worth pattern on repeat for days and days and days, I don't parent the way that I want to. I'm not as sturdy. I'm not as grounded. I'm not as kind because I'm not being as kind to myself. And so a huge part of this journey for me, along with understanding what's important for my muscles, what's important for my brain, what's important for my hormones, all of that is an essential part of this. But I'm honestly finding that it's more important for my mental health, my emotions, my sanity, and the way that I show up as a parent is to really address it at its base level, which is my nervous system. And so I'm really spending a good amount of time tracking the signals and systems in my body that are sending me cues of discomfort. And I'm analyzing those cues and asking if the stories that are coming up are actually relevant today. Are they relevant today? Does my pant size have any relevance to how I show up at school for my kids? No. But it's those old stories, those old patterns that resurface. And when you're exhausted and drained, your body's going to go to what it knows. And so I was spending a lot of intentional time in the rewiring process, giving my brain another variable and another option to look at in terms of self-worth. I'm really building that around myself to support me through perimenopause. It's 2025 and there is more parenting advice than ever before. Yet we're still confused, stuck, and as a result, fall back into yelling, threatening, and punishing in moments that don't require such harsh reactions. Parenting has evolved, and it's time your parenting strategies do too. Welcome to REWIRE with ResponseABLE Parenting. This is where you get the support you're looking for so you can make fast, positive, and long-term change in your household. Inside this complete parenting system, you'll get a done-for-you roadmap that teaches you how to understand why you get so triggered, how to support both yourself and your child in the heat of the moment so you can react less and respond in a way that connects you versus creates more ruptures. You will quickly create a new nervous system baseline, allowing you to access more regulated and effective communication so that you can set and hold boundaries without meltdowns, reduce power struggle nightmares, and truly dial down the temperature that spikes every day. And if you're like me, you crave instant results and personalized feedback. Now you can join REWIRE Level Up and have 6 months of weekly coaching calls. In these calls, we work together on your specific challenges and we hyperspeed your rewiring process. This means you see faster changes in your home, which means relief sooner. This is your complete program to rewire your parenting brain so that your whole family can finally exhale. Join REWIRE today and start feeling relief as early as tonight. It sounds kind of odd to be like, let's focus on self-worth and focus on our mental and emotional health more than the physical stuff that's going on. But here's the deal. We're going to focus on the physical stuff just because that's what we're going to do. So we're going to take care of that no matter what. What I'm saying is it is more essential than ever to start focusing on your nervous system practices, because as we are heading into perimenopause and our kids are heading into puberty, as they're transitioning into all of their hormonal changes, we can't have a war of hormones. That just is not going to go well for anybody. So this is the time. If you are right around that 38 to 48 range, you're heading into perimenopause, my friend, or you are smack in the middle of it. And now more than ever is the time to actually address your patterns, to really look deeply at your triggers, to really dial in why we are so reactive over certain things and build systems around us to support ourselves, because it is not something that we can white knuckle. We have to have systems in place and new protocols in place going through this in order to be effective, because we lose our efficacy when we're dysregulated. It is just not good. So I'm here, as always, to just be like a sounding board for what you're going through, and also to give you practical, real, tangible support that will work. This has changed the way that I parent. I was parenting in the beginning of this process. The beginning of a parent, I was doing all the things until all the quote unquote correct things, like the gentle parenting strategies, until my son's behavior moved out of my scope. I was like, this is above my pay grade. Found out he has ADHD. That made a lot more sense. Then I lost my son. And I experienced so much grief and trauma around that I actually had no idea what to do. I didn't know how to parent a very strong-willed ADHD child in the midst of grief from losing my child, and then throw in COVID and all of those additional things, and then a new baby. It was pure chaos, above my scope and scale of what I knew how to do, above my instincts. So I went and sought help. I went and found how to do this in a succinct way. So I wasn't just grabbing strategies against the wall and throwing them. I call it strategy spaghetti. I wasn't doing that anymore. So I followed a system. And then I learned how to make that system work for me, because you can have all the tools, you can have all the scripts, all the strategies, all the knowledge, but unless it matches your inner compass and what's happening for you, it's ineffective. Right? So then I took all of what I have learned and I started matching it to what my nervous system was telling me. And now I have a full system of how to actually understand what is happening in my body. I can listen to it. I can, in a few seconds now, see whether or not the storyline is the past or it's relevant today, decide whether or not I'm going to actually follow the old neural pathway that was the old storyline, or I'm going to pivot, follow the new, more empowered storyline, do it that way, right? And now I actually have, from all of what I have learned, the strategies and the systems and the actual words and things to use, but I can use them effectively now because I actually know how to listen to my nervous system. And that's what I teach inside REWIRE. And so this is the time for your nervous system, your perimenopausal body shifts. Nervous system work is going to be what gets you through this. The supplements, the hormone replacement therapy, all of that is beneficial. Yes. I haven't started HRT yet. I'm talking to my gynecologist in my next appointment, and we're going to be talking about what it looks like, what the differences are, if it's when to start, the whole 9 yards. That is on the table. That's going to be something that I can share about in the future. But what I know to be true is how I show up as a parent without nervous system regulation is trash. And it's hyperreactive. And everything in perimenopause is hyperreactive. Everything in perimenopause is this like white hot red switch of rage, and then really deep sadness, and then regret, and then like you just build upon the evidence of the low self-worth patterns from the past, and it's just this nasty spiral. So I implore you to decide if now's the time to really start looking at your nervous system and see if you could start to support yourself in that way. I have a free training. It's called Rewire Your Reactions in the show notes. Definitely go check that out. And then I talk to you about my process of how to rewire your brain and how to rewire listening to the nervous system cues that your body is sending you every few seconds, to really use that to your advantage as a parent. Use that to your advantage in perimenopause. So check it out. Please watch it. Let me know. Send me a DM. Ask me any questions. I'm an open book, and I cannot wait to keep supporting you at whatever stage you are at in your parenting journey. See you next time. Thank you for listening to the ResponseABLE Parenting Podcast. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast, I'd be honored if you'd share this episode with them. Until next time, know that you are enough, you are capable, you've made it through all of your hardest days, and we will keep growing on this parenting journey together. This podcast was produced by Kim Kelty and myself, Becky Jennings, and edited by the Kelty Method, Branding and Podcasting.